Yo, I'm a fucking idiot, bro. I didn't even realize. Shit, man. What the fuck is this? Bro, I'm a dumbass. I didn't even realize that I didn't have it. That I wasn't even running right there. I'm a fucking idiot. But hey, man, we back. Welcome, guys. Welcome. What is it today? It's fucking Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Man, I was waiting for the leaf blower guys to chill out because they was going crazy earlier. But thank you guys for joining me, man. Thank you guys for coming in. And welcome to another episode of the Jayson Estrera Show, where we talk about basketball, sports, and any topic that comes our way as accurate as possible. Now, today, we are going to be talking about the fact that this upcoming season is the redemption arc for the NBA. I can see the writing on the wall. That's what this entire season is going to be about. There's a lot of up-and-coming guys. There's a lot of players and teams that are establishing themselves. But there's also a lot of players and a team that's looking for redemption, for revenge, to come back from something. And we'll be talking about that later on today's show. Also, we are going to be talking all about the Anthony Edwards quotes. He's in the headlines once again. Always funny, always has something to say. So we are going to be talking about that as well. But first and foremost, we are going to start with a fun topic. We're going to be talking about other people's money. So they recently published the 25 highest paid players in the 2024-2025 season, which is led by Steph Curry and Joel Embiid. Right, $55 million for Steph Curry, $51 for Embiid. Jokic is right there, and this I think is really cool. The fact that they're about to make the same exact amount of money, because in my eyes they are damn near two sides of the same coin. They do a lot of similar things. They're just versatile big men. They're gonna be all-time MVP candidates. Just all everything, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's funny that they are both making the same amount of money because they are each other's comparison. Kevin Durant is 4th. Bradley Beal is 5th, making $50 million. Devin Booker is at 49. Jaylen Brown is at 49. Karl Anthony Towns also at 49. Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler at 48 rounds out the top 10. Now, on this list, there's a name that doesn't necessarily belong. And I guess when you start looking down, there's a couple other names that don't really belong. But in the top 10, in the top 5, there's a name that does not belong. And that's Bradley Beal, y'all. That's Bradley Beal. Now, I'm not going to be that guy, right? I think obviously Bradley Beal, the way that these contracts are now set up, when you're the best player on one of these shit teams and you're hitting certain accolades and benchmarks, that unlocks a certain percentage of the salary cap, then you were allowed to take this money. Now, he gets offered this, right? A lot of people will get mad at Bradley Beal. You're an da-da-da-da-da. But an organization offered him that money, right? And you can't blame him for taking it, right? Like, whether he thinks he's worth that or not, you can't expect him to not take that money. That's silly, right? I think this more so, at least the story in my mind should be these teams putting themselves in these bad situations, right? There are times where, and this is very easy for me to say because obviously I'm not an owner, I'm not a player, I'm not in this, I'm not on these organizations, right? But there's times where I've said, just don't sign them. That's very easy to say, right? Until you start thinking about the fact that these organizations have to fill the seats in this arena. They have to have some kind of a star player that has a name, that can produce, blah, 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 blah. That's necessary for these organizations to run. They can't just have a bunch of Joe Schmoes running around on the team. You know what I'm saying? Granted, someone would end up assuming that role, being a 20-plus point per game scorer, but I get that part in it, right? And as a player, like I said before, what are you going to do? Say no to the offer? What the fuck? You going to just say no to it? Who the fuck is saying no to $50 million a year? Like, that's ridiculous. So, I think this list is more so an indication of if you have a problem with someone on the list, this should be a reflection on that organization, on that management group for signing these players for that much. You're only worth as much as you get offered. We take Russell Westbrook, for example. I don't think he's, a $3 million, $4 million player, but that's what he got offered. It is what it is, right? I could give any argument that I want. Oh, he's an MVP, he's a triple-double king, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, he got offered an amount, and he said he had an opportunity to say yes or no to it. And he said yes. So ultimately, that dictates the market, right? It's not necessarily our opinions. And like I said, it's up to the players to take or not take these contracts. And for a Bradley Beal, why wouldn't he take that? And now, trying to see, are there any other names on here? Halliburton's in the 20s already, at 42.3. Siakam is also right there with him, 42.3. Wow. So what this brings me to is, obviously Bradley Beal's name sticks out, right? But what does this mean for his team? Because players have talked about it, right? Whether we like it or not as fans, these contracts a lot of times dictate the hierarchy on these rosters, right? The player that's getting 30, I guess now in this day and age, $50 million a year is going to be the player that takes 20 plus shots a game. Now, maybe the second best player might feel like they're just as good, if not better than that person. But if you're making $15 million, $20 million a year, guess what? The other guy is going to get most of the shots. It just is what it is, right? And this Phoenix Suns situation where three of your players, all three of your stars are in the top 10 of this salary list, led by Kevin Durant at 51, Bradley Beal at 50, and then Devin Booker comes in third at 49. And this is the part that no one ever wants to talk about. And yeah, you can say, oh, cry for millionaires. I don't give a fuck. This is the reality of their work environment. Kevin Durant, he's just shown us on Team USA, he don't really care about who the man, who's not the man, who gets the shot, who don't get the shots. Kevin Durant will go into a game and do what he does regardless of how that shit breaks down. I think that shows a confidence in himself and who he is and how great he is of a basketball player. So I don't think he's really relevant in this situation. Bradley Beal makes more money than Devin Booker. And it's not even the fact that Bradley Beal is coming into Devin Booker's team or whatnot. I just think that flat out Devin Booker is the better player. And if we're to compare this to the Golden State Warriors era, right, that Kevin Durant was also a part of, where Steph Curry was the guy, right? A lot of the plays and this stuff went towards him. But at the end of the season and at the end of games, the leading scorer was Kevin Durant. And then Klay Thompson was in a support role, I guess you could call it, to the three of them on offense as the third option. Essentially the corner guy. Just the greatest corner guy we've ever seen. I think they can learn from that situation, but the dynamic shifts, right? Devin Booker is not the same player as Steph Curry. Bradley Beal is not the same player as Klay Thompson. And Kevin Durant is older now than he was then. It's just a different Kevin Durant. So I think that the hierarchy, or it needs to be, Devin Booker is option number 1, Kevin Durant is option number 2, and Bradley Beal is option number 3. At $50 million, can Bradley Beal assume that corner role? And it's much less about stats. It's much less about any of that. It's just the ability to hoop and play basketball is what he's sacrificing. All of his skills and talents that he's worked on and trained on all of these years, right? There isn't gonna be many pick and rolls where you get to do your thing, right? You have to be a Klay Thompson, and can he do that? I think the other part in this equation too, and I'm not gonna. I want to make sure that I do mention it, and it's the fact that they just didn't play that much together. Right? There's that part. They just didn't play that much together. Maybe they would have gotten to this conclusion or found some kind of synergy just by getting reps in. But unfortunately, they didn't have that opportunity. So we're just kind of we're just guessing here, right? But that's how I see it working out in the best case scenario. Now, when it comes to their championship aspirations, just to put this light on Kevin Durant and Devin Booker a little bit more, right? I think this team needs to take a lot more from the Golden State Warriors on offense. Because when you watch them play, it's a lot of one-on-one. It's a lot of taking turns. And even off of the ball, the weak side, they're not screening for each other. They're not back cutting that much. That forces movement on the defensive side, right? So that when Kevin Durant or Booker or Beal hits a move, the guys on the weak side are already moving, right? It creates a confusion. They're dealing with a pick and roll. There's a person driving towards you that you have to now react to. And what used to happen, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, they used to get lost in the middle of that and find the open spot and get shots up. These guys can still play one-on-one basketball. They just need to incorporate some of the movement that the Warriors had. Because what they created were easy buckets. I'll always harp on that. The NBA is not about who can make the most step backs or difficult shots. It's about who can get the most easy buckets. And then you supplement that with these tough shots, hero ball shots, whatnot. That's how the game is played at the highest level. Can we run our action to get easy buckets? And, you know, the Warriors shooting, their players were so good that when Klay Thompson is coming off of a pick from Steph Curry and going to the three-point line, and if Steph is doing the same thing, they ignore the person that set a pick who's now diving to the basket. Easy backdoor cuts and layups. That's what, in my opinion, the Suns need to implement more of. Now, someone might say, oh, Kevin Durant is on the team and he knows all the plays and blah, 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 blah. But he's not the coach. It's not up to him necessarily how they're going to play or what they're going to. I'm sure they have conversations about it. But at the end of the day, that's not up to him. It's just not. It's up to these coaches to implement these things and to have them execute it at a high level. But like I said, they also just need to play together more, and I think that will go a long way. So we'll see what happens with this Phoenix Suns team. They have a trio that gets paid a lot of money, and when they don't win, everyone's going to talk about it. So actually, hold on, guys. Let me go get some water. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. All right, we're back. So the next topic that we will be talking about is, from another member of that Golden State Warriors team, and this is Draymond Green, with this interesting conversation that he had with Boogie Cousins. Let's take a look at it.
And there's attitude. They live in the same house.
Yes.
But the difference in them is how they're characterized and categorized.
Right.
I remember you said something to me in 2018. Man, we the same. We the same. And they say you got passion. And they say I'm crazy and got an attitude. I was like, cuz you crazy, we ain't the same. And what you said was, nah, but y'all been winning. So they say yours is passion. I haven't won much. So they say mine is an attitude and I can't be coached and I'm crazy and this and that. And I said all of that to say, I'm sorry. Because you was right.
You get to a point where you just learn to control what you can control.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, in this lifetime, it's going to be motherfuckers that hate you. It's going to be motherfuckers that love you. Yep. That's just how this goes.
Yeah.
There's passion and...
So I've been on Draymond. I've been on his ass, but he has been saying a lot of things that, I have been supportive of. And to express that apology to DeMarcus Cousins, I think is very big. Right? On the one hand, it's big because it shows a growth in Draymond. It shows a self-awareness. It shows a understanding, right? But even deeper than that, coming from an NBA champion, a four-time NBA champion at that, and Draymond Green, who was a massive part of those championship teams. I don't know. It seems like, Cousins is in a much different place right now in his life, and in that he has also grown. But I think hearing that from an NBA champion validates a lot of the things that DeMarcus Cousins probably thought, right? Going through what he went through in the NBA, always getting ridiculed, always getting called a hothead when he was just being passionate. Yes, it can boil over and it can be physical, or it could be harmful or toxic or whatever negative term you want to put on it. That's it. I mean, it always has that potential, right? Because even someone that's very calm can do something very toxic still, right? It doesn't mean they're excused from doing something bad. But the person that's very loud and very animated and shows it, that person's an easy target to critique and point a finger at. And being that person for all of his career, I think that, you know, they're obviously laughing about it, but that had to feel good to hear from one of his brothers, right? He, you know, a lot of these guys always say they don't necessarily need some of the fans or whoever's validation or the media, but their peers, right? And I think that really did go a long way for DeMarcus Cousins. Even though, you know, they're laughing and joking and stuff, I do genuinely think that it did go a long way for him. Now, it opens up. Let's do this. It opens up this topic for me, right? Which is the fact that fans are choosy. And we've mentioned this in passing before. I've talked about it for sure. But it's the fact that fans can look at pretty much the same thing, but categorize them totally differently based on whether they like that person or not, or even worse, because they win or lose. Right? In their example, they're talking about passion. You know, when people like you and they're a fan of you and you're a winner to their point, it's called passion. When you're losing and, you know, people don't like you, it's called having an attitude. It's called being a bad teammate and blah, 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 blah. You could take this and carry it on to damn near any topic anywhere, especially in basketball. For example, James Harden gets to the free throw line an ungodly amount of times, is always baiting shots, pump fake, rip through. On one hand, right, because he's losing, oh, he's manipulating the game. Oh, he's baiting all the time. Oh, he's faking da-da-da-da-da. But when it's a player that you like, or when it's someone that's winning all the time, oh, that's smart. Oh, they keep getting hit all the time. Oh, look at him making the defender look stupid, making a fool out of the defense. You see how quickly it changes? Even, I say it all, I was just talking about it yesterday. Trash talk. When you don't like the player, or when they're not, quote unquote, a winner, oh, that player is being cocky. That player is being overconfident. That player is just talking shit. But when you like that player, or when that player is considered a winner, oh, it's good trash talk. It's banter. Oh, look at him. He's showing confidence. He's establishing dominance. We choose all of these different words to put it in a positive light when they're really the same thing. And it's unfortunate because those fans that look at things in that way, you miss out on how great all of these other players are. My dad taught me at a super young age when it comes to basketball that any player, regardless of where you are, what you're, where you're playing, you could take something from everyone. And I took that literal, and it's helped me enjoy the game. Because instead of trying to find the differences all the time, you're like, oh shit, that person does that too. Oh shit, that's cool, that person does that too. You start recognizing these things. Instead of picking and choosing, we could debate. Right? There's certain things we could debate. It's fun. But to say that one person is this and the other person is that, when they're basically doing the same thing. What's the difference when Kobe get in the lane and he start pump faking 40 times? What's the difference? What's the difference between that and James Harden rip through? Or when he what's the difference when Dwayne Wade used to do it? Pump fake. He would full jump into a motherfucker. There is none. See what I'm saying? There is no difference at all. But yeah, man, that's oh, the other part, right? You get physical players. You get a physical player, a big, for example, right? Super physical big. On a good team, they're enforcers. Oh, he's an enforcer. He's a tough defender. He's physical, right? On a bad team, he's a dirty player. When the reality is, both guys are dirty. That's what the reality is, right? Like, you just gotta know. You just gotta call it like you see it, and you just gotta call it like you see it, right? You know, when all of those years that, you know, Draymond and the Warriors were winning, he was an enforcer. He was the glue guy. He was the physical guy. He's protecting Steph and them, even though he was still kicking people in the balls and pushing people and blah 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 blah. But now they're losing. Oh, look at him. He's a bully. Oh, look at him. He's a dirty player. You see the difference? You see the difference? But yes. Now moving on. This is I know some people might not agree with this. Because, you know, we were talking about the Phoenix Suns and their trio of stars. And it got me thinking about Dame and Giannis, right? And what they need to do to reach another level. And I think that the Milwaukee Bucks, kind of like the Phoenix Suns, can learn a thing or two from the Golden State Warriors. And here's what it is, right? I've been screaming for Giannis to really develop a post-up game. To get on the block and really learn how to post up, drop step, a hook shot, up and under, to really develop a post-up game. So he can, like I said before, can get easy buckets, draw fouls. It opens the game up, right? Sucks the defense into the paint, opens up the shots for your three-point shooters. But he hasn't done that. Even now, he's still, at his size, strength, and physicality, for the most part, is going to get it into the lane. And he's either going to give you an in and out or a crossover, right to left or a left to right. And what is he going to do? Euro step? Or he's going to spin. Dog hair. Or he's going to spin. Right? That's what he does. No problem with it, but that's what he does. He just won't develop this other part of his game, right? He's gotten better at shooting, but he's not a three-point shooter. He's not a knockdown three-point shooter. So what can he do? The fuck is that? I hope that don't continue. So what he can do is, I think he can adopt a little bit of what Draymond has done for the Golden State Warriors. What I mean by that is this. When they're leaving him and the guy is dropped, to just pick the guy next to you. Pick Dame, pick for Chris Middleton, pick for somebody. Right? If you get the ball and instead of... There was a... Oh, shit. Where was it? There's a clip of him. Let me see if I have it right here. Oh, here it is.
About it is, like, we have a conversation about it.
Yeah, that's dope.
It ain't like he was just like, I'm not changing. Yeah. He was just like, Dame, sometimes, like, you got to just tell me, like, pass the fucking ball.
Yeah.
Like, you got to tell me because, like, all I know is go. Like, I'm going to go. Like, but don't, like, he'll tell you, like, tell me. And
that's all I had to say.
And he mean it, though. Like, I give him credit because he mean it. You know what I'm saying? Like, as the season went on, we talked about it more and more the more that we got to know each other.
And to what Dame said right there, right? When Giannis gets the ball at the 3-point line, and this is a positive thing, right? Similar to Rajon Rondo, if someone's dropped, instead of standing there and waiting for a play to develop to someone to come off of a pick or blah, 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 or even worse, forcing a bad shot at that time, what does Giannis do? He'll go downhill and take up that space. Because when a defender is on his heels and the guy is fucking 7 feet tall coming at you like a cheetah and he got a Euro step and a spin, it puts you in a very compromised situation, right? But players have learned to use Giannis's force against him a little bit. They'll try to bait him into some charge calls, or they won't go too deep so they can kind of stay with him when he does attack. They'll put 2 players down there. There's a multitude of things that they do now, right? When sometimes, to like what Dame said, you just got to pass the fucking ball. Instead of getting it and just attacking downhill, right? If he gets the ball, just dribble handoff to Dame because your guy is damn near at the paint. You pick his guy and Dame gets an open 3. The Warriors do it all the time. Draymond talks about it all the time. Of his willingness to just give up that possession, that moment for his guy who can shoot the shit out of the ball. Because now, right, what happens, right? If they do this again, the same time Giannis gets the ball, he's going to do a handoff. That defender that Giannis had that was low is going to creep up higher, and now they're running out at Dame. What happens now? Giannis, after he sets the handoff, can now dive to the rim. Creates very simple actions that they could run. Right? That's not necessarily just a high pick and roll. Right? Because that's all that they do. And all they'll do is they'll trap Dame, they'll force it, and they know the rotation. Right? The defense knows the rotation. As opposed to forcing this movement, then now you get a bucket to the rim. The whole backside has to react. Put Chris Middleton in a corner. Now you got actions going. You see what I'm saying? I think that very small thing, right? And there was even... Let me see, where is this? And that opens up something like this.
Look at that. Oh, what a fake from Draymond. The third. Draymond Green fakes, drives, and the flush. Slaloms off the screen. Draymond fakes the DHO and brings some smoke to Denver.
On his outside shooting, and Coach Kidd said it was all about confidence. He said his belief in himself.
So that, if Giannis is not going to develop this post-up game that I keep praying that he does, I think that's something that Giannis can steal from Draymond that can make him very effective. Because now every time that action happens, you are forcing the defense to not just make a read, but to now react, right? And with those two guys, with Giannis and Dame, I believe that more times than not, they're going to make the wrong call. And more importantly, that Giannis and Dame are going to make the right read, right? And so I never thought I would say this, but I think Giannis needs to steal that from Draymond Green. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think it would go very, very far for what they're trying to do over there in Milwaukee. Now, Michael Jordan is one of the greatest players ever and probably the best player ever. And this is what Anthony Edwards had to say about the era that he was in. Let's see. And he did say he didn't really watch back then. He says, I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it, and then proceeds to speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now. But I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill. You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe Bryant, they were like, oh my God. But now, everybody has skill. Now, this is causing an uproar. And I know why, but I'm still a little bit confused because when he came into the NBA, he told y'all verbatim that he didn't really watch basketball. So if he didn't really watch basketball then, what makes you think he was watching 90s basketball? If all you know are Michael Jordan highlights and you're looking at the rest of those guys and then you get this wave of people that's saying we done with the 90s, what do you think a 23-year-old would actually think of the 90s? He thinks just like every other 23-year-old. It just so happens that he's really fucking good at basketball, and that's why everyone expects something different. But Anthony Edwards is a player that is very talented and is very gifted physically. He's a super athlete. And it wasn't until the NBA when his game really started to evolve. Right? It wasn't until the NBA where he really started to, you could see, watch film. He talks about watching film and loving the game and learning the game now. It wasn't always like that. So these comments are not surprising to me, right? Just fucking think about it for a second. Like, everyone else is having trouble trying to explain this shit to their 23-year-old. Like I said, he just so happens to be really good at basketball. But you got to think that this man has probably just been seriously watching basketball within the last 3 to 4 years is when he seriously started watching basketball. Based on his own comments. And if you watch him, I don't think he knows how to even lie properly. So we got to take him at his word. So it is what it is, right? That's how he feels about it. Now, obviously, Michael Jordan was not the only player that had skill in that time, right? If y'all don't know, these things are, people say things off the cuff, right? And, you know, somebody will say anything and they exaggerate it, right? It's not exactly what they mean. But what he's saying isn't that far off. When you talk about an era that was all about specialists, Who can dislike? Ethan Pro. What you mean? What that mean? Explain yourself. But can you like? Oh, please do. I would appreciate that. Thank you. I would appreciate that if you like the video. I truly would. That's what we're going for. But when you think about the 80s and the 90s, you can pick out certain guys that were highly skilled, right? Everyone across the board wasn't highly skilled. Not everyone could dribble the ball. Not everyone could do all of these moves. Now, bench guys are hitting fadeaways the way Michael Jordan do. I get it. They're not Michael Jordan, but they can hit it, right? As opposed to back then, people weren't doing fake fadeaways. Like, everyone can do this now. So I don't understand the uproar, right? I think a part of the problem is the fact that there's too much of an emphasis on skills, on being skillful. And there isn't as much of an emphasis on understanding how to play the game of basketball. Understanding people, tendencies, what teams like to run, how to counter it. The thinking part of it on different levels, I think, is what is a little bit lost because there's been such an emphasis on skill. So I don't understand what the problem is. I don't get it. We're talking about, you could pick out players back then that, like I said, had skill. They could do. Tim Hardaway Sr. is phenomenal ball handling. Nick Van Exel, super highly skilled. Damon Stoudemire. I mean, there were guys. Don't get me wrong. Larry Bird was he couldn't dribble the ball, but his passing, the way he could fake, it was high skilled. But again, that wasn't everybody. Right? And for the most part, when you talk about the best players in the league, yeah, those guys are going to be highly skilled. It's just that in this time, even the players that aren't the best have skills. They can do these things in the game, as opposed to back then. But some people don't understand that part of this discussion. But it is what it is. Right? It is what it is. I'm here to provide context. Like I keep saying, I'm here to provide perspective and provide context for y'all. But now we move on to, let me see. Where is this?
That's what you doing? Yeah.
Hey man. He gonna cost you a dime, stay out of mind, you know what I mean?
Yes, sirski.
You in LA, boy.
Come on now.
Yeah, I see my boy in LA.
Hey, you know what I mean? Me and Book run the show in LA, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what you doing?
So Anthony Edwards and Devin Booker will be running the show at the 2028 Olympics. I would love to see it, right? The part that I want to talk about in this is the thing about like the 92 Dream Team, the thing about this team is the fact that the team is led by champions. Right? The big three in Steph, Bron, and KD, all three are champions. In 92, Jordan, Bird, and Magic, champions. And it would be really cool if at the 2028 Olympics, that book and Anthony Edwards, if they would be champions at that time leading the team, I think that would be really cool. And this is coming from someone that hates this ring narrative and ring talk, but I think that would be really cool. Because, like I said before, I highly doubt that Jason Tatum is on that team. And or Jaylen Brown. I don't think either one of those guys are on that 2028 Olympic team. So, when it comes to champions, that's the only team that I really see that's gonna have championships by 2028. I'm gonna be honest with you, at least on the American side of things, right? On Team USA. So, is it anything and everything? No, because obviously they've won gold medals where players weren't NBA champions, right? It's happened before. But it would be really cool to see. Now, more importantly, right? When that time comes, that's 4 years from now. Will Ja Morant have something to say about it? Because before all of the things that Ja Morant has had to go through, with the gun stuff on IG Live, the injuries, right? People forget that he was also injured. Before all of that stuff, he was probably right behind Bron, Steph, KD, and Kyrie as one of the, if not the most, he was right behind that group. And he was one of the most popular players in, the next group up, the next tier under. If not the most popular player in that tier. He was leading the charge for the young guys. He has 4 years. In 4 years, can his game, his accomplishments, team success build with his likeness and image, right? I think he'll be fine. I think he's still that guy, and he was very well a MVP candidate before all that shit went down. And I would love to see him in that form, because it makes that point guard group very interesting to me. Very interesting. The other part is Zion. Because to me, Zion is the wild card. When I see Zion Williamson plays, you don't see anyone that plays like him. His ability to just dominate with his physicality. But he has such a soft touch when he gets to the rim, starting to hit shots. So aware, he could he has such a control of the game. And honestly, when you look at the landscape of the NBA, Zion getting his shit together with his weight, I hope his mental is all right. I hope all of that is great, right? That Zion Williamson that's in shape, in the right headspace, that's developing, is possibly the best player in the league. I'm be honest. Now he doesn't have to just be a 4. He's a 3/4. Bigger than everyone, bigger and stronger than everyone at the 3, faster than everyone at the 4. And he could outjump anyone. I've seen him wrestle Giannis. That you don't see people do that. I've seen him wrestle Randall. You don't see people doing these things. So Book and Ant are great, right? Maybe at that point they've had more team success. Maybe, like I said, a championship, so they really can be the leader of the group, right? Because they've like I said, they just have the experience. But I'm looking at Ja Morant and Zion Williamson as two players that the rest of the world cannot match in terms of their athleticism and how explosive they are. Anthony Edwards is with those two also. You know, I don't want to forget that. But because of, you know, the road that those two have had to take to get to where they are, maybe they can find, I don't know what the word is, maybe they could relate in that sense, right? And so maybe they could be the duo going into that Olympics. Maybe Book and Ant, they have this camaraderie, they already got a gold medal, they have team success, blah, 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 blah. And now the two young guys that are going to kind of be under their wing who are also dominant are Ja and Zion. That's what I'm hoping the dynamic will look like, especially if we don't have a Jason Tatum in the fold. I don't know about Anthony Davis. He's going to be a little bit older. And then, you know, the young one is going to be like a Paolo Banchero is going to be the young one that they're going to be like, all right, we got you, young fella. But I'm really curious as to, one, what that roster will look like. I know it's 4 years from now. I can't fucking wait. But more importantly, what do their careers look like over the next couple of years? So I'm super pumped to see that, man. I'm super excited to see that. Now, where did this even come from, dog? Oh, I remember. So, because of the comments that Dennis Schroeder made about European basketball is all high IQ and coaching and it's no entertainment, right? Almost to say that, like, the American players are just stupid and athletic, right? So it leads me to ask, what would you value more, right? A player that's high IQ with no athleticism versus a player that's low IQ and high athleticism? Which would you choose? Now, you can't, when you think of someone like these players, right? You have to think of players that actually have no athleticism, like a Kyle Anderson, a Boris Diaw. I guess you could say a Nikola Jokic, right? No athleticism, high IQ, versus who's a low IQ, high athleticism player, versus a player like a JaVale McGee or a Birdman, for example. I'm trying to think of a player that, I mean, hell, there might have been some people that, especially coming into the NBA, some people might have considered Anthony Edwards a low IQ, high athleticism player, that he's playing off pure just being a freak athlete, doesn't really think the game through. Now, what would you rather have, right? Now, for me, I personally would take the low IQ, high athleticism player. And here's why. The high IQ with no athleticism, that player, I think, can always be solid and good and be effective, But you can't teach them to be athletic, to jump high, to all of a sudden be a speed demon and be very fast. It doesn't happen like that. Meanwhile, a low IQ, high athleticism player, you can teach them how to play the game properly. They're not all of a sudden going to become Chris Paul or LeBron James, but you could teach them. And when needed, or when things get tight, their athleticism can still take them over the top. I value that. Because, like I said, I think I take the person that I could teach something to versus the person that I can't teach something to. Right? And I was watching this on Gil's Arena, and they were talking about the fact that even if you're a high IQ, even if you're a high IQ player, if you're surrounded on your team by a bunch of players that aren't quote unquote high IQ or don't think the game through, or so they're making mistakes, they can make you look bad. And now all of a sudden, if you're not faster, stronger, you jump higher than people, now you struggle also, because when they're double teaming and when things are tight, you can't simplify the game to your advantage, because you're still trying to play chess, and your team is fucking playing Uno. So it can hurt you, right? What is this? So in that sense, it can hurt you. Now, this brings me to the Denver Nuggets. Because the Denver Nuggets are a high IQ team. And it's not that they have no athleticism, just lower athleticism. Jamal Murray and Jokic are both very high IQ players, but neither of them are faster than everyone at their position, stronger, quicker, whatever you want to call it. None of them can out-jump their position. When you look at Michael Porter, who has a lot of height, but he doesn't get into the mix a lot. He's not in the paint, hitting you with layups and whatnot. He's a shooter. The only one on their team all of these years, now we can include Russell Westbrook, that has athleticism is a Aaron Gordon. And I think this becomes a problem when you play the best teams in the NBA. Yes, I know that they're NBA champions, right? When they can dictate the game and force their pace on the game, the Denver Nuggets look great. When athleticism kicks in, like the Minnesota Timberwolves, when they started pressing and their defense started picking up and they're getting out on the break, and the Nuggets are over here still playing half-court basketball, the Nuggets don't have a gear to all of a sudden start playing really fast. They don't have to turn into the Mike D'Antoni Phoenix Suns, but they can only change their style of play but so much. Aaron Gordon is the only one that can compete with these other players on these other teams in terms of physicality. He can meet them at the rim. That's his role on this team. So when you have to play tight defense and run up and down the floor and start beating teams in that aspect, they can't really do it. because even when they get turnovers, depending on that situation, they're going to have to pull the ball back and run a set, as opposed to having players that could get out on the break and get some easy baskets. It's why I was really pushing for them to get a Russell Westbrook, because I think he adds a different dimension to their game. Someone that's going to keep attacking the rim, keep attacking the rim, keep attacking the rim, right? Forcing the defense to react to him just from his athleticism. And now it opens up. Now Jokic gets to do this. Jamal, it frees some of these guys up. So hopefully they can look to start getting a little bit more youth on their team, a little bit more athleticism, so that they can have different dimensions. They could throw different lineups at these teams. And so that they can compete for another championship. Because obviously they have one of the, if not the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic. And I think it would be in their best benefit to try to constantly reinforce their team and try to make it better. They have shooting. They have a great team already. Just add little pieces here and there, right? Add some quickness and speed. Add some verticality. I think it'll go a long way. It's very simple, but I genuinely think that it will go a very, very long way. Now, we were talking about Ja Morant earlier, and I firmly believe that this upcoming season is the NBA redemption era. It's the redemption arc, where all of our heroes are coming back to prove that they are who we thought they are. Starting with a Ja Morant, right? It's really exciting to see Ja Morant hooping again. He looks great. Like, he looks great for real. Like like honestly, he looks great. Let me see.
This is,
and I'm excited to see how these players. Let's take a look at this. If that's what we can expect to see from Ja Morant moving forward, being able to use his athleticism to bait people, get them to run back on their heels, and have this in-between game and hit threes, then we are in for a fucking treat, right? This Ja Morant redemption arc is going to be as great as we think it's going to be, because right before all of these things happened, like I said, he was an MVP candidate. He really was an MVP candidate. And not only that, but was one of the most popular players in the league. And hopefully he's healthy. That's all we could ask for. It starts with that and his health. But I've believed in his game for a long time. I think he's going to be great. Now, another person that we'll be looking for is Lonzo.
Oh, you the man. He can shoot it. He can shoot.
Good pass.
Hey, shot. That's all. That shot. Oh! Skinny. Good pass. Corner. Good pass.
Now, I would love to see Lonzo come back and be great, right? I don't see why anyone wouldn't want someone to come back from a devastating injury, right? And the fact that he just has such a different game from the rest of these guys, right? A pass first, 6'6" point guard that likes to defend and has been slowly developing his jump shot. And to his point, right before all of the injuries, he was probably one of the best point guards in the league. And I would love to see him get back to that point, right? For him, it's really about trusting the knee, slowly getting back to where he was. Now, no one has ever, I forgot, a cartilage replacement or whatever. No one's ever come back from an injury like his. And he has the opportunity to be the first, right? I think that's probably one of the driving factors from him outside of just wanting to play basketball and get back out there. But I hope that they don't rush it, right? Excuse me. If he gets in 50 to 60 games, I think that's a A+++++. That's phenomenal. I hope guys aren't fucking expecting him to get 18, 8-8. Like, let's set it to where it's supposed to be. Let's just see how he even looks at first before we start throwing numbers out there. But he is also on that list for this redemption arc. The next one on the list for me, and we've been seeing him all summer long, is none other than Steph Curry. This team is falling apart. It looks like a sinking ship. Bob Myers already abandoned ship. Klay Thompson is abandoned ship. And now he's left with his enforcer, Draymond Green. They didn't get Lauri Markkanen. They didn't get Paul George. They got Kyle Anderson. This year is a redemption story for Steph Curry. They've missed the playoffs the last 2 years. He's been great. I think he's going to set out to prove himself once again. Had a great Olympic run in those 3 games. I think he's going to try to put the league on notice with all of the talks about all of these other point guards these past couple years. I think Steph is crazy enough to have taken all of that stuff personally and will do something about it. Now, who else do I have? The last one is the team that won the NBA championship. I know that's crazy, right? That the NBA champions would go on a redemption tour. But when you take into account the fact that Jaylen Brown didn't even get invited to, they said he called them, but he didn't get invited to the Olympics. Jason Tatum, for whatever reason, got a bunch of DNPs. They've been cooking Jason Tatum the whole time. And all of this talk about the Celtics being so, I feel like there's just all the negative stories possible are out on the Boston Celtics. And the ball is in their court. They can either whine and cry about this, or they can take this to heart and run the league this upcoming season the way that they did last year. And I think that that's what they're going to do. There's a good chance we see the best version of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown this next season. I'm talking delusional confidence. Delusional confidence. And like I've said before, delusional confidence goes a long way. Now we're going to add that buff to the team that just won the championship. Yeah, I think it's going to be scary. They don't have the same demeanor the way the Nuggets had, where they won a championship and didn't look to dominate the next coming year. I think the Celtics do have that. And we are going to see it. But until then, that's going to do it for me. So before I go, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. It helps the channel out. We're trying to grow this thing, man. So we're almost at 5. We're getting slowly but surely. We're at like 330 some, 333. So we're getting there. We're getting there. But again, thank you guys for hanging out with me as always. You guys could have been anywhere on the internet, but y'all were here with me. And I really appreciate that. So thank you guys for joining me. I will see y'all later, man. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of y'all day. Peace, 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 peace.